And there you have it. We've just listened to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And joining us to analyze the New Year speech by the President is political analyst Jide Johnson. Good morning. Thank you very much. And Happy New Year from us here at Breakfast
Good morning
Central.
to our viewers all over the world, and Happy New Year to every one of us. It's a new year. It's a year of hope, based on what the President has said in capturing what was the thematic element of his campaign, renewed hope.
I think that will be the basis of my first question to you. The President's speech, of course, we all know that the campaign on which the President came in was renewed hope. And he did say that he knows that compatriots have been asking, is this how his administration intends to renew our hope? And he's encouraged and urged people to not let the spirits be broken, saying that our current situation should make us determined to work harder and be better citizens. Having heard the speech from top to bottom, would you say that that speech has renewed hope in your heart, or had the capacity to renew hope across board?
Well, based on what the President said from the beginning, talking about tough situation require tough people to solve problem, and with this last call to all Nigerians to join him in governance, and the opposition to understand that election has ended and it's time for them to focus on governance. And I think that what we require now is for that to be matched with action. And you know, we have listened to a lot of speeches. We have, with the exception of few, everything the President said in this speech he has said in the past. He has said in the past, in the independence broadcast, his inaugural speech, and other speeches which he has delivered. However, we just want that to be matched with actions. And you know what the new year gives to you? It gives you a new lease of life. The old page is closed, a new page is open, and then everybody seems want to be on the same page with you. And I think that the President is having a second chance, and with this call to all Nigerians, once Nigerians begin to say, Nigerians are the most simple people to lead. What they require from you is just for you to set the ball rolling. If you give Nigerians the basic, I can tell you, quote unquote, they worship you because Nigerians are highly religious. All you just need to do is to see during the political campaign how Nigerians revere political leaders and the kind of expectation. And I think that, and I hope and I pray that this new year, because when this country works, actually, it works for everybody. It makes life easier. Nobody wants things to go awry on the basis of politics, because like I've told people, if it rains, it falls on anybody. If government construct the routes, everybody will pass. It doesn't look at the identity of your politics, whether you are PDP, PC, or Labour, or whether you are Yoruba or Igbo or whatever. So I think that all of these should be matched with action, and it should start from the top, like he said, to the bottom. Once people can get direction from the top, that's why the most important organs of our body are placed in the head. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, the head, the brain. And so once people can get a cue from the head, and then everything will fall in places.
All right. I mean, you've touched on some very, very critical points, and there's some that I'd like you to react to, especially looking at the very last one where he said, regardless of the political party that you belong to, everyone is a joint hair in making Nigeria work. I would like us to look at that leading into 2024. But we also have joining us this morning an economist, Paul Alaje, all the way from the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning. Let me start by saying Happy New Year, compliment of the season to all viewers across the globe. We pray it will be our best year yet.
All right. I'm sure the resounding amen is what we've been hearing even on our talkbacks from the control room. But let me ask you first, what did you make of that presidential speech? Was it in any way different from what we heard a few months back, especially in October 1st?
Well, let me first commend the speechwriter of Mr. President. They have been saying the right things. In fact, their percentage of deviation from what speech people want to hear right now is near zero. They said all the right things. As President mentioned, that there is no economic growth without electricity. He also mentioned the importance of investing in things such as rice. The President mentioned that he will remove all obstacles that will hinder investments. This is a position I've championed very recently in the last couple of weeks, you know, when I mentioned some kind of obstacle that some persons are posing the investment in Nigeria. I'm really very happy that the president mentioned this directly in his speech. And he also mentioned that everybody is necessary to be involved when it comes to building a great nation. He has also mentioned that we must resolve to be joint heirs so that we can work together to make our countries better. He has called on opposition and everyone that is important. The most important point for me was when he said to build a nation is not just about the president. We need all the ministers, we need all the lawmakers, we need all the governors. It is at this point that I know that perhaps a thorough work has been done to this speech. Yes, it's very similar to what we hear during about 3 months ago during the what's it called now?
The Independence Day.
Independence speech. It's very, very close to it. But now there seems to be more deliberate action in this speech because I listened to it very, very carefully. But the important thing here is that, yes, the president has done barely 8 months in office, or yeah, I think 7 months plus in office. And one may argue that he's still relatively young. I understand. But you see, 2024 is a year where excuses for just starting hands, because this is the real year the president has to work. So he has mentioned a number of things that we should expect in 2024. He has said this year he will work assiduously to ensure that the minimum wage, which is very key, said the minimum wage will be increased. And it is not because he just wants to increase it, but because it is what is really necessary. Now, I'm sure that those in labor cycles, labor leaders, they will be thinking, what will the minimum wage be? By how much will it be increased? Is it 30,000 naira they are getting now be made part of the minimum wage? Will it be going to 60, or will it be going to 80, or will it be going to 100? As this minimum wage increase is happening, what do we do about productivity so that it doesn't lead to higher inflation? Because on one hand, we need to really consider increasing minimum wage in the wake of reality of high cost of a PMS, a very, very high amount that people need to pay. People need to go to work. 30,000 naira certainly will not take anybody, to places of work. What happened to those businesses that are owned by private owners? Will they be able, can they afford to pay even more? These are real conversations that is important that we have, because the truth is minimum wage is important. We make a major review on minimum wage, but it's also important that businesses that will pay this are able, they can afford it. Because we also need to see what happens to the subnationals that are making less than 10 billion naira on annual basis as their IGR, especially those that are even making less than 24 billion. Some states cannot make up to 1 billion naira in IGR. And the information is there on the Bureau of Statistics website for us to see. Even Budget has recently published what happened in 2022. I believe before March this year, a number of new organizations will publish. So Mr. President has said all the right things. What I expect of him is to now combine different level of government with legislature, so that what he has said will become a reality, such that Nigerians will not think this is another sensational speech that has been read by Mr. President. He touched on inflation, and he said he has listened to all of us, and this for me became really very exciting. I almost heard the president quoting some of the presentation I've made. Honestly, he said that the thing that we are talking about in public space, this is the difference between this president and perhaps the former president. And I said that with all sense of, decency, is that he's telling us what we are discussing.
So
is what he said is true.
If we get you correctly, Mr. Alaje, you are very pleased with the body language of this president because he's not acting like he's alien to the complaints that Nigerians are making, if I get you correctly. And I'll come back to that. But I want to bring in Mr. Jide Johnson into this conversation. talking about him feeling the pains of Nigerians, would you say that in the past months, his actions and the policies that he's made has reflected, I mean, not to downplay the very important element that, the important element of empathy, that he feels the pains of Nigerians and is able to say it, he's recognizing it. But would you say that his actions and his policies have reflected an administration that feels the pains of inflation, especially because a number of citizens would argue about the over-bloated cabinet and how the cost of governance is at an all-time high in this current administration?
Well, you should understand the dilemma of the president. I've explained that to every economic policies he takes, he must also look at the political dimension. Don't forget that this is the president that came with the narrowest margin to the presidency. In the actual sense, the government of minority, in the sense that just two-thirds of the electorate voted against the president. The president had 8 million, while the opposition party had close to about 13 to 14 million. So invariably, as a politician who he is, he would think of it's only statement that think of the economy. Politicians think of the next election. So in moving forward, how do I run an all-inclusive government, which is contradictory to what we are saying in terms of making sacrifices from Nigeria and at the same time having an overbloat. There's no doubt that the cabinet is overbloated. There's no doubt that those that we have elected in office in 2023 have not shown anything with respect to reducing the cost of government. But it's a new year. Like Alaje said, there's a consistency in which what the president has said with respect to his policy, the policy thrust of his administration. And that's why we hope and pray, and like he has said, that is renewed hope that all of these talking points will be activated, will be backed up with action beyond rhetorics. Look, solve the energy problem. Once you solve the energy problem, all problems center around energy. Every businesses are powered by energy. Solve the issue of he said he's going to simplify the tax codes in Nigeria, which makes it very, very interesting for investors. And I tell people this, one of the things you need to do is for you to ensure that you have a system in place that encourages local investors. It is those local investors. Now, the president said he went to Germany. When he went to Germany, he did not discuss with the German government directly. He discussed with Siemens. Siemens is a company owned by Germans, not by the German company. So once we make the environment business friendly for Nigerian investors, hypothetically, let's say you and I invest in energy. We are successful in Nigeria. We invite other people from abroad to come and partner with us in that particular business. So rather than be looking forward to foreign investors coming into Nigeria, I think the focus of the administration, in what way and in what manner can we help local investors? Because that will send signal to other foreign investors to come and invest in the thriving economy, which is Nigeria.
It's not like it's publicizing itself. The
exactly,
fact that the
because charity begins at home. Yeah. China built its economy internally. You know, China closed its economy for almost 50 years. Now, China does not need to advertise to you, the president of China does not need to travel to all parts of the world for people to go to China because they've allowed local investors to thrive.
So I guess my follow-up question to what you said would be, what would that picture look like? Now, he's mentioned one area which would be to ensure that we have constant and constant energy being supplied, because once we solve the electricity crisis, we solved a huge chunk. But what would be the picture? And I'll ask the same question to Mr. Alaje as well. What should this administration do to make investors, to encourage local investors and invariably foreign investors?
Well, it's the tax code, which he said we have double taxation. And I think Alaje is going to speak extensively on that. But if you look at from the experience, and I hope that the president will have learned from his experience as the governor of Lagos State, Lagos State has one of the multiple taxes you can ever think of. And that's why you see a lot of industries left Ikeja, a lot of industries left Ilupeju to go to Agbara and some to Ghana. Or you just take a trip. Where we are sited used to be very, very close to an industrial. What has happened to all of those industries because of double taxation? And I hope the recommendation of his tax reform panel will be implemented.
All right. Mr. Paul Alaje, if you're there with us, would like you to quickly also react to that. The question looking at what can make the investors indeed remain and possibly back up what the president has said.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson has given you one, which is very succinct. He has mentioned that one of the things is multiple taxation. It's not just in Lagos, even in Abuja. We have different agencies of government who have turned themselves to tax collector in a way. And I know that the fiscal committee of the president is already looking at how to harmonize collection of revenues and reduce multiple taxation in a way, which I think will go a long way to helping the situation. But that is not the only thing. Environment. I am a producer myself, and I can tell you the high cost of doing business and the general environment for doing business is very horrible. Apart from being an economist, I really don't believe that economic theory or just being an economic advisor is sufficient to understand the dynamics of our economy. So I got myself involved in production of rice, which is pure rice milling, mechanized rice milling in Abuja. Now, some of the challenges that businesses have, and businesses of our size has, is that one, farmers are being killed on their farms. How do we continue to invest in a processing plant in tens or in millions of dollars or tens of hundreds of dollars and expect to have no paddy? Without paddy, you don't have a rice mill. So, but in the farm, there are insecurity. That's a challenge. So sometimes when you are produced back to back for a month, you may have a break in between simply because there are no paddy rice. Two, the infrastructure to make this happen, the infrastructure to bring paddy from farm in instances where we have them to the main city, it's a challenge. That is why the price of rice is increasing. The price of rice had increased from what it was last year at 42,000 to about 65,000. You know, I mean, what year 2022 to end of 2023 at 65,000. Many people will wonder what happened. But rice is a staple food in Nigeria. Many are resolving back to cassava. The price of cassava is also not getting cheaper. So we need to build an environment that accommodates, that support both local investment, because these local investment will stay with you. Foreign investment as well, they will help you to bring in FX, but we will not do foreign investment at the detriment of local investment. So it's important for government to look at the general environment. Again, the state governors must become chief economists of their states. What does that mean? In promoting the state, I want to start seeing in 2024 a situation where states will say, we have created an industrial zone. The states have guaranteed 24 hours power supply in an industrial zone. You have solved about 40% of the issues. Then let the state government also say, apart from federal taxes, we have harmonized all our state and local government taxes in a single point, such that when you do business with us, you have registered with Corporate Affairs Commission, and you have agreed to pay necessary taxes that go to federal government. All other taxes in our state, we have itemized them. These are the things that you pay. Maybe your permit, your taxes, your pay as, the pay as you go. So it is so clear to people, and there are no other persons, whether they are state actor or non-state actor, that will harass people to doing their business. Again, addressing general cost of living, and government showing that sincerity in supporting the citizens to reduce the impact of high cost.
All right, very interesting there. But there's one thing that a lot of Nigerians, I would say, are reacting to positively. Well, so far so good. Reactions on social media shows that Nigerians are looking well pleased with the speech that we just heard from the president. But the president seems to be a tough person, especially in the aspect where he made the statement that there's no excuse for poor performance. And it's setting up the policy and monitoring evaluation, team to ensure that they monitor the MDAs. What do you make of that statement? And what do you think the monitoring team will be able to deduce from what the president has said? Most importantly, if you were a governor, what will come up in your mind looking that the president has come out again to say no excuses, we asked for the job and we need to get the job done? Your reaction?
Yeah, that's accountability. If you are given a responsibility, you must be held accountable. If there are no KPIs, then there are no outcome, then you are not on your way to excellence. So that's why what he said, that at the end of the first quarter, all ministers, all heads of agencies will be evaluated, and your being appointed will be based on your competencies, because there are no room for excuses. Like he pointed out, is the most sought job for him, is his lifelong ambition. And God in his infinite mercy, it's not everybody that has an ambition that God in his infinite mercy granted him that opportunity. And so I'm looking forward to the end of the first quarter. I think by the end of the first quarter, we'll have spent close to about 9 months, and that's if you conceive a pregnancy by the end of 9 months, you should have delivered whatever they have cooked in terms of policy trust of that administration by the end of the first quarter. Then we see, because that 9 months there will be no excuses. And like I've said, every Nigerian wants this country to succeed. Absolutely. Because there's no place like home. It's not about politicking, but it's about getting things right. And once you send the right signal, then you get it right. Like he pointed out, in Germany, government does not have control over the power sector. It is private individuals that are invested in it. Now, we've done that with the telecom sector. Look at how successful. If anyone had told you that the telecom sector will be as vibrant and as successful as it is, 25 years ago, you wouldn't believe it. 22 years ago, you wouldn't believe it. But it is that approach. Why can't we borrow that approach and bring it to the energy sector? In the energy sector, what we have only done is the DISCOs, the TISCOs, and the GENCOs. There are 3 value chains: the generating company, the transmission company, and the distribution company. So it is the distribution chain that is completely privatized. There is the need for government to allow those particular other value chain to come in and allow private investors. Good enough. The Ninth Assembly and the President did constitutional amendment that has taken power away from exclusive list to concurrent list, which makes it possible for state to even generate. And I think we should implement that. Once we implement that, this country is blessed. You know what? Someone said, if you turn Africa around and then you turn it into a gun, Nigeria is the trigger. Once Nigeria gets it right, every other African country will get it right. There will be monumental development and a cultural and developmental shift in Africa. We are not just the giant of Africa for just saying alone. Once we mark it up with action, I can assure you that there will be meaningful development all over Africa.
All right, let's talk about one of the things the president had said, and I'll come back to you as well again, Mr. Jide Johnson. And he said he had to take some necessary but difficult policies as soon as he got into power. Of course, we know of some of them being the removal of fuel subsidy. And he said the removal of the chokehold that some individuals had on our foreign exchange. And I want you to react to that.
Chokehold. Well, there's no doubt that when they talk about cabal, there's no country in the world. That's the reality. In America, they call them the military-industrial complex. You talk about the big pharma. That's people that have big investors and political bigwigs that have control over the affairs of. And the president himself, outside of the presidency, before he became the president, was the leader of the APC, and is also part and parcel of those that he is talking about. So he knows what he's talking about, and we hope that he has the energy, the full complement of the resolve to address this particular issue. You know, the challenge with Nigeria is that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. It's not that there are lack of opportunities or there are lack of resources in Nigeria, but the gap of inequality is so wide, and the space of opportunities for average Nigerian is not. And starting from that, I think what the president should also look at is the political space in terms of those that are appointed into offices. If he looks within his cabinet himself, he will see that there have been people that have been in government for almost quarter of a century. So they've closed up that space and they've not provided opportunities for others. So once you open up that space, I think there will be a lot of opportunities for a lot of Nigerians. For example, if you look at the Secretary to the federal government, he's been in government since when? The Senate President has been in government since when? And the Chief of Staff to the President has been in government since when? So when that space is narrow, you don't provide opportunity for Nigerians. That space, the political space, should be open in terms of giving opportunities to others. And I can assure you that this country will develop at rapid pace if we open up the spaces for others to have an opportunity.
Mr. Alaje, if you're there with us, the president also mentioned in his speech that they're working on a new wage. And in his words, he said it's not because it is something that they must do, but because it is morally. He used the words, it's morally right for them to carry on that particular action. This minimum wage, should it come anytime soon? What do you think it will help the economy? How do you think it will help the economy to improve? And most importantly, what do you think it will do to the president's tenure starting especially this year in 2024?
Thank you once again. I believe that Labour deserve more than what they are being paid now. And I'm hoping that I will be seeing between 60 to 100,000 minimum wage. Already the federal government workers have been promised 30,000 naira extra. And I've seen that I think one time, one of the 3-month promise have been disbursed from some of the available information. But I think government wants to formalize this such that minimum wage can permanently increase, and that can reduce the incessant strike we saw in 2023 coming from labor. But there are processes that must be followed before minimum wage is changed. There are lay-down procedure. So I want to believe the lay-down procedure will start this January. Recall that there were times where labor had gone on strike because some of the things that are promised by government never happened. So I think the president is putting this out to say that, yes, we have taken into cognizance the minimum wage. What I'm not sure of is whether this new minimum wage amount has been included in the 2024 budget submitted by the president and passed by the Senate a number of days ago. If that is not the case, it only means that Nigeria will be expecting another supplementary budget. Recall that the budget that was presented, passed by the Senate, has also been increased by about 1.2 trillion naira. What that means is that we might need to increase on borrowing, because the 2024 budget originally already has about 9 trillion naira borrowing. So if you're increasing minimum wage and we have to borrow more, then it means we are borrowing on consumption or we are borrowing on recurrent. What must we do to improve our revenue, to pay our workers? Are we going to demand for more productivity to improve such that this minimum wage increase will not have a high impact on inflation that is already high?
To let you go now, but as quickly as possible, you said between 60,000 to 100,000. Do you think that right now, with the state of our economy, is that feasible?
Well, I can tell you that it's not about being visible, but in the word of Mr. President, it is what is morally right. We understand that government is the only one that is very happy with the current economy. And you ask me why. It is so because before now, what FAC was sharing was about 600 to 700 billion naira. Now, government is sharing between 1.1 to 1.9 trillion naira. So the component of economy that has benefited is the government component. Economists will talk about the household, the firm, and the government. The government component is making a lot of more income, because when you remove subsidy, you are telling government that, hey, your money that we are giving to all your citizens is now being collected and given back to you. When you now devalue, all the monies that you are earning in that currency, we make what government gets to even be more. And that is what we are seeing now as a country. So whether it's visible or not, is for government to say from the excess they are getting, they need to give back to their workers, state, federal, and local government.
All right, Paul Alaje, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We look forward to having you join us on another day, and we wish you a wonderful year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's bring the conversation back to Jide Johnson. I want to find out your reactions to his statement regarding the minimum wage.
Well, I have a contrary view. My view is that if you operate a federal system of government, that's challenges we have been having. And I think that we need a tough situation to address this tough problem. And you need tough personality to do. Just like the approach the president adopted with respect to removal of fuel subsidy. You can only legislate for minimum wage for federal workers. You can't legislate for people working in the private sector, one. You can't legislate for people working in local government, two. You can't legislate for people working in state government, because the indices are different. The cost of living varies across board. But every time government goes about doing this, what's the implication? Now you increase the minimum wage on one hand, the cost of living will take it on the other hand, the high cost of inflation will take whatever you have given to the workers on the other hand. And I think that what federal government should do is to deal with the issue of federal workers and allow each state to deal with. Even the present minimum wage that has been paid, how many states are actually paying it? And the present salary that have been paid, how many states
That's
are actually paying that salary? So we should depart from this political statement of we are going to improve minimum wage, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. If we are improving, if we are going to do that, these are just, I've been hearing that, and as far as I'm concerned, these are just political rhetorics. There's no way at any level. Even in the United States of America, there was an attempt to have a national minimum wage. This particular debate, when you operate the federal government is only helps federal workers. Other workers working in states, working in local government, they are affected by the issue of this minimum wage. What you need to do, put in place system, put in place structure, reduce the cost of living. If you reduce the cost of living, you improve the value, the exchange rate of the naira to a dollar. You look, how much grocery are you going to buy with $100? How much groceries you buy with $100? Now compare that. How much groceries are you going to buy with 100,000 naira? So it's not in the thousands. It's not in the thousands of units of your currency that you collect as salary, as wages, but it is in the value that is inherent in your currency and the cost that is required of you to enjoy good standard.
Because if I was earning 30,000 in January of 2023, by December of 2023, 30,000 was really worth nothing in comparison to what it was.
Let me just bring it home. Just December, I spent 100,000 buying fuel, and I drive a Corolla, which is a fuel as a teacher, fuel efficient, 100,000 just. So the energy sector, which the president himself has pointed out, ask everybody operating a business, what is the overhead to power your business now? What's the overhead?
It's skyrocketed.
I have a lot of people that operate in the hospitality business, hotels and what have you. All you need to do is to pay a visit and you understand what it has done, and then your economy cannot grow if your hospitality business is not sound. One,
because that's how,
that's what brings people in. The tourists that are coming into your country, the foreign investors that are coming into your country, where are they going to stay? For example, if you take me to one remotest area in Nigeria, for me to go and look at the arable land that is there, the agricultural opportunities which hotel am I going to stay? When the hotel does not even have the energy to power the hotel. And those that have so these are areas, and that's why I've said there's a critical sector. Government needs to take away its hand from Tiscos. Government needs to take away its hands from Gencos. It's only one of the value chain. Now, Obasanjo administration started with the first. I think the others should go. And once we do that, because you see, according to the Jewish account of creation, the first problem God solved was the energy problem. And God said, let there be light. Let there be light. Once we solve the light problem, the power problem, and when you talk about even governance, you can't come into government without power. You know what? You have to derive your power from what? From the people. We say government in power. Now, if government is in power and government is not providing power, there will be power for the people to power the economy.
That's a deep one, though.
Sermon.
Thank you so much.
I almost felt like screaming preach.
Thank you.
All right. Joining us now live is our correspondent, Chizoba Nyonwe. She's all the way in Plateau State. Good morning to you, Chizoba. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Happy New Year from the Plateau.
Ah, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We can see that you're all looking very bright and, of course, ready to go for 2024. First off, let's ask, what's Plateau like, especially from the wee hours of the night up until now, entering 2024? What was it like?
Well, in the midst of the sorrows on the Plateau, they say time heals, and I guess time is actually healing. Not so fast anyway, but time is actually healing. People are coming off their sorrowful mood, the pains, the agony they passed through just a week ago. barely 7 days ago. So from where I was yesterday night, still doing my new stuff and all that, I could hear sounds of fireworks and all that. So it's been a joyous atmosphere, actually. It's been a joyous moment for people on the plateau. It's grace. It's the mercy of God that you see a new year, brand new year, 2024.
Right.
So in the midst of the sorrows and everything, people are still thanking God for making it possible for them to see this new year.
And that's very encouraging news, because we know that Christmas on the plateau was not Christmas at all. It was a very dark Christmas with lots of crying, wailing. And whilst they're still crying, it's great to hear that there is a bit of ray of hope on the plateau. Now, we hear that Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, as well as the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Muhammad Matawali, and the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, visited Jos Plateau State. And you were there, so we want you to give us an update on how the visit went.
Yeah, the heavyweights were here on the plateau yesterday, and it was an all-day event because they spent most of the time in the communities where these sad attacks took place, and there was a stakeholders meeting or town hall meeting per se with the community members. In fact, they had to gather from where different places that they were taking refuge, call it IDP camps for now, because basically there's nothing there. They are just waiting and leaning on the support anybody, any organization, any group could extend to them. That is the truth. And then after the meeting, where, of course, the ministers and the service chiefs had to reassure them of their rededication to bring peace on board, to make people feel this peace, to make people feel that there are security agencies working for their own safety, for their own good, so that there could be peace again on the plateau. You know, earlier than now, people would always say it is the home of peace and tourism. But unfortunately, these sad things kept coming up here and there, you know. Yes, for some months now, we've had, let's say, some good amount of peace on the plateau before this heat came, and it hit so hard. So, but the people of Plateau were reassured by the ministers and especially the security chiefs that they are going back to the drawing board. They are coming in with more troops, more combat enablers to ensure that peace gets back on the plateau as soon as possible. So that was the reassuring statements they were giving, while the people also poured out their hearts. There was an outbreak of cries and everything. You do not blame them. It's just like opening an old wound or healing wound, you know. So they felt the pain again. They were heartbroken and all that. But at the end of the meeting, everybody was fine, hoping that the promises from these dignitaries would come to light, you know. And that was that. And after that meeting, they had to take a tour of the affected areas to see the burnt houses, the burnt cars and everything. And basically, the touching thing there is that most of these locals have departed their homes, their ancestral homes. They do not want to joke with this. Of course, no one wants to joke with what has been handed down to him or her from their ancestors, their fathers in the past and all that. So that is the situation for them. They are still in pain, actually. They are still in pain. You can't take that away from it. I mean, it's just like 7 days after losing. Some people lost a whole family members and all that, loved ones, friends, and all that, you know. So they are coming up. They are coming up to face the reality that, yes, these people are gone. We're not going to see them again. But what they want is that peace, maximum peace, gets restored on the plateau. They can't give anything in place of this. And because if there's no peace, farming cannot go on, which is their major occupation, you know, development cannot go on. Nothing can happen, basically. In fact, we're just seeing animals roaming about, chicken, goat, and all that, except for a few men you know, men, sometimes they'll be like, we'll take the bullet and all that.
All right.
Yeah, so a few
Chisholm,
of
let
them
me also come in as
were still
well.
on ground.
I mean, thanks for that update. We do also realize that the Vice President had visited earlier on and had promised that the government will do its best to ensure that they bring sanity and peace to the people of the plateau. And that also coincides with the speech we just heard at 7 from the president, who said the government cannot at the moment beat its chest that they've been able to secure and bring sanity or peace to the lands, but they are trying their best. But then again, opposition candidate in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, was also there, visited, and he also made some statements. Let's take a look at this amateur coverage of that speech.
With my own talking now, talk to other people to help, since we now have an account, to be able to support whatever you people are doing. Whatever you people are doing, we will do whatever we can to support it. I assure you of my support, my numbers and everything available for those in hospital, for everything. We will do whatever we can. And having been here, we will also make sure that the news is out there, that people have to come to your aid. We remember you in prayers. That God Almighty should not allow what happened to you to happen again. Amen. That you have to go back and live in your houses. And may He console you and give you the fortitude for those that have died. So I assure you, like I said, I've been to the other local governments, and they also said they've established something. The next working day should be the 2nd. What I'm going to do in my own case is that I have to start my own.
Okay, so I mean, it's good news to know that everyone is indeed reacting, and the plateau is starting to gather the attention it needs at this point to heal. But one final question for you, Chizoba, as you head out to prepare your plans for 2024, because I can tell your diary is open in front of you. I'm just guessing though, and you do have your resolutions. Aside from the security issues and the likes, what do you think would make 2024 work for the people of the plateau? And what do you think is critical aside from security now for the people of the plateau?
Oh, well, apart from security issues, peace on the plateau, I think basically what the people need is poverty alleviation programs. You will not take that away, because when people have lost almost what they have, they need to start anew. So programs, activities that would put them back on their feet again is what they need. Education cannot be taken away too, because when people go to school, when people are literate enough to know their left from their right or their right from their left, then they'll be able to stand strong, to know what they are doing, and to also improve themselves in what they are doing and what they need to do to get higher, to get to higher grounds. You know, so it's all about improvement in every aspect of life. It's all about improvement. So no one can stand in a particular place and expect to develop or grow or improve him or herself. So everyone is looking at education sector, agricultural sector, poverty alleviation activities or programs. Stakeholders, in fact, have been challenged to bring on board whatever it is that will improve the common man on the plateau.
All right. Chizoba Anyonwe, thank you so much for joining us. We, of course, wish the people on the plateau a happy new year. We hope it's truly one free of insecurity challenges and poverty issues. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much and for staying with us in this trying time.
Always together. All right, let's now bring the conversation back into the studio as we invite Mr. Jide Johnson to, of course, react to the conversation. Now, let's tie what's happening on the plateau to the speech by the president this morning. Of course, he did talk about insecurity, talking about restoring security within Nigeria's borders, saying that they've worked really hard to free a number of abductors, captives from the abductors, and that they will keep doing all that they can. If we look at the current budget, defense and security has the highest allocation on the budget. What would you say we need to do differently? What would you say? You know, they say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And having allocation, budget and security has always had high allocations. So is that something we should sustain, or is there a way that we need to do things differently from your perspective?
Hold people accountable. Just like we are evaluating the ministers, we should evaluate the police commissioner. We should evaluate the security chiefs. We should evaluate the director of DSS of the state wherever you have infraction. We should evaluate the commandant of the NDDC. All those that we have given responsibility to, we should hold them accountable. You know, it's only in Nigeria that the service chiefs will remain in office despite the previous security challenges that we have. And then if you can't secure your border, if you can't protect life and property, there's no basis for government. I recall what the president said with respect to investment in the agriculture. You need food security. Now, if you can, it is when you are self-sufficient that you become less dependent on export, which strengthen your own currency in competing arguably with other currency. And it's because we are not being self-sufficient, and that's why. So security is critical to having that. The 500 million acres of land that President said we are going to invest in, plant millets, plant all of these. If people can't go to a farm, why do you think that the cost of living is very, very high? It's because of the series of security challenges we have had. Farmers can't go to farm. You heard what Alaje said, who is an investor in the production sector, particularly the rice value chain, the end product processing and whatever. He said, if you don't get the paddy, how do you produce the rice? Hence, the cost of rice will increase. So, the president, there are two critical areas. Solve the security problem, solve the energy problem. And I tell you, the industry of Nigeria will vitalize this economy. All you need to do is to take a trip outside of this country and see how industrious Nigerians are, making other economy to tick. Just take Nigerians out of the economy of Great Britain. See what will happen to that economy. Look at the other side of Japa when people talk about, take Nigerian, I can say this for a fact, take Nigerians out of the economy of Atlanta, which is the capital of the state of Georgia, or take the economy of Nigeria out of Houston, which is the second major city in Texas, and see what will happen to that particular economy. Nigerians are industrious, they are workaholic. What they require is the enabling environment. And the president himself has said it. For us, the chief of staff, the chief of army staff, all of those service chiefs and all those you have given responsibility to should be held accountable. It's either you perform or you are excused from government. And he said it, no more excuse. And I think what we are going to do in 2024 is probably to have that campaign, no more excuses.
I agree to that. I think we should buy into that with the hashtag no more excuse.
That's what the president...
having T-shirts and all that.
No more excuse.
All that printed. I want to say thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Taking time out to join us to analyze the presidential speech. Thank you so much, Sir Jide Johnson.
It is a pleasure to start the year with wonderful people and our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day and a wonderful year ahead of you.
Thank you. Thank you.